Hello everyone, and welcome to the first installment in my Mike Tyson documentary. In part 1, I will be covering Tyson's childhood, amateur career, and his first year as professional boxer. There will be several videos in the series spanning Tyson's life from his birth until the present day. The inspiration for this series came from the recent announcement that Mike Tyson will come out of retirement to fight fellow legendary boxer Roy Jones Jr. After the announcement, I started watching old Mike Tyson fights, and I was inspired to create a comprehensive yet concise video documentary about Iron Mike, that is one of my all-time favourite boxers. Iron Mike holds a record of 50 wins, 6 losses and 2 known contests. 44 of his wins are via knockout. Tyson was well known for his knockout power, as well as his controversial behaviour inside and outside the ring. He's often referred to as the baddest man on the planet for good reason, and Tyson is considered by many one of the best heavyweight boxers of all time. Mike Tyson intimidated fighters with his strength combined with outstanding hand speed, accuracy, coordination and timing. Tyson is also very elusive, and this is due to his footwork and head movement, making it very difficult for his opponents to land punches. Mike Tyson also possessed notable defensive abilities, holding his hands high in a peekaboo style taught by his mentor Cus D'Amato. This was to slip under and weave around his opponent's punches whilst timing his own. Tyson's explosive punching technique was due in large part to crouching immediately prior to throwing a hook or an uppercut. This allowed the spring of his legs to add power to the punch. Tyson's power, quick fists, and notable defensive abilities intimidated his opponents, who were often afraid to fight Tyson. This gave Tyson the uncanny ability to level his opponents only one round, and earned him the nickname Iron Mike. Mike Tyson won his first 19 fights via KO, 12 of which came in the first round. This led to Iron Mike claiming his first belt at 20 years, 4 months and 22 days old. Mike Tyson holds a record as the youngest boxer to win a heavyweight world title, a record which still stands to this day. Michael Jared Tyson was born on the 30th of June 1966 in Brooklyn, New York, to his parents Jimmy Kirkpatrick and Lorna Tyson. When Michael was 2 years old, his father abandoned his family, leaving Lorna to care for Michael and his 2 siblings, Ronnie and Denise. The Tyson family were struggling financially, so they moved to Brownsville, Brooklyn, which is a neighborhood known for its high crime. Tyson was often the target of bullying due to his lisp and small stature. To combat this, he began developing his own style of street fighting, which ultimately transitioned into criminal activity. His gang, known as the Jolly Stompers, assigned him to clean out cash registers, whilst older members held victims at gunpoint. He was only 11 years old at the time. Tyson frequently ran into trouble with police over his petty criminal activities, and by the age of 13, he'd been arrested more than 30 times. Tyson's bad behaviour landed him in the training school for boys, a reform school in upstate New York. This is where Tyson met counsellor Bob Stewart. Stewart reluctantly agreed on the condition that Tyson would stay out of trouble and work hard. He had been an amateur boxing champion. Tyson wanted Stewart to teach him how to use his fists. During his time at Triam, he also became very determined to learn everything he could about boxing, often slipping out of bed after curfew to practice punches in the dark. However, in 1980, Stewart felt he had taught Tyson everything he knew about boxing. This is when he introduced the aspiring boxer to legendary boxing manager Cus D'Amato. D'Amato was known for taking personal interest in promising fighters, even providing them room and board in his home. He was previously involved with several successful boxers, including Floyd Patterson, Jose Torres and Muhammad Ali. D'Amato immediately recognized Tyson's promise as a contender, telling him, "If you want to stay here and if you want to listen, you could be the world heavyweight champion someday." The relationship between D'Amato and Tyson was more than that of a professional trainer and boxer. It was also one of a father and son. D'Amato took Tyson under his wing when he was 14 years old and became Tyson's legal guardian. D'Amato set a rigorous training schedule for the young athlete, sending him to Catskill High School during the day and training in the ring every evening. D'Amato also entered Tyson amateur boxing matches and smokers, which were non-sanctioned fights, in order to teach the teen how to deal with older opponents. Tyson's life seemed to be looking up, but in 1982 he suffered several personal losses. That year, Tyson's mother died of cancer. Around this time, Tyson was expelled from Catskill High School for his erratic and often violent behaviour. Tyson continued his schooling through private tutors while he trained for the 1984 Olympic trials. I will not go into Tyson's amateur career in great depth, as it's difficult to find footage and information varies from each source. According to BoxRec, in total Mike Tyson had 12 amateur bouts, winning 10 of these and only losing to Henry Tillman, both times via judges' decision. Tyson also fought Henry Tillman later on as a professional, which will be covered later on in the series. As an amateur, Tyson won gold medals at the 1981 and 1982 Junior Olympic Games, defeating Joe Cortez in 1981 and Kelton Brown in 1982. After Mike Tyson failed to make the Olympic team, Customado decided it was time for his fighter to turn professional. Mike Tyson had 15 bouts in his first year as professional. Fighting frequently, Tyson won 26 of his first 28 fights by either KO or TKO, 16 of which came in the first round. This section of the video will now break down Tyson's first year as a professional boxer. Mike Tyson made his professional debut on the 6th of March 1985 in Albany, New York, against Hector Mercedes. The 18-year-old Tyson started very strong against Mercedes, landing some nice combinations to the body. After a few defensive clinches from Mercedes, Tyson knocked back his opponent with a stiff left hand, then proceeded to finish the fight with a relentless barrage of body shots, earning Tyson his first KO victory. Tyson's second fight was against 1-3 Trent Singleton on the 10th of April 1985, once again in Albany, New York. Tyson showcased his potential in this fight by knocking down Singleton with a flurry of hooks in the first round. After a brief exchange, Singleton was sent to the canvas again by way of a left hook. Once Tyson knocked down Singleton a third time in the first round, the referee called a stop to the match. Notice how Tyson nonchalantly walks around the ring afterwards without breaking a sweat instead of an elaborate celebration. Tyson's next fight was around 6 weeks later at the same venue against the seasoned Don Halpin. He entered the fight with a record of 9-18. This was a very one-sided fight, with the majority of the offense coming from Mike Tyson. However, Don Halpin did manage to land some punches throughout the fight. Don managed to push Tyson into the 4th round. However, this marked the beginning of the end of the fight, when Mike Tyson knocked down his adversary with a stiff right. After a count from the ref, Tyson was like a shark smelling blood in the water and went in for the finish, with a combination of hooks and an uppercut to knock out Halpin. Once Tyson was declared the winner, he jumped up on the ropes like a WWF wrestler. On the 20th of June, Mike Tyson fought Ricardo Spain in Atlantic City. Spain entered the fight with a 7-0 record. This fight started with a strong effort from Tyson, with Tyson landing some powerful shots against Spain, forcing him to cover up. Spain did manage some offense but was knocked down by Tyson. After beating the ref's 10 count, a stunned Ricardo was knocked out seconds later by Tyson. Tyson showed some good sportsmanship and respect after the fight towards a more experienced Ricardo. He looked annoyed and disappointed he was stopped in the first round. A few weeks later, Tyson faced John Alderson at the Trump Casino, Atlantic City. Alderson had a record of 4-0 going into the fight. Alderson had a noticeable height advantage over Tyson. However, Tyson did an exceptional job of closing the distance with a lunging jab, forcing Alderson into a clinch several times. After surpassing the first round, the second round started off similarly to the first. However, Tyson looked frustrated by the defensive clinches and started to land some heavy shots. After a clinch break, Tyson rocked Alderson with 2 right hooks, which had Alderson on the back foot as Tyson increased his offensive intensity. After a few more desperation clinches, Tyson knocked down his opponent with a powerful 1-2 combination. Alderson managed to beat the ref's 10 count, but he was still dazed. Tyson went in for the finish and Alderson hit the canvas for the second time after succumbing to Tyson's offense. Once on his feet again, a battered and tired Alderson continued to take punishment and went down again towards the end of the round. Alderson took the doctor's advice and decided not to answer the bell for the third round, handing Tyson another TKO victory. Tyson fought again a week later against Larry Sims at Mid-Hudson Civic Center, New York. I was unable to find any footage from this fight, but in Tyson's autobiography, Undisputed Truth, Tyson describes the fight. "I ran my record to 6-0 in my next fight against Larry Sims, but I really pissed off Cuss in doing so. Sims is really slick and awkward, one of those cute fighters. So in the third round, I turned lefty and knocked him out with a resounding punch. In the dressing room, Cuss confronted me. 'Who taught you that southpaw crap? People don't want to fight southpaws. You're going to ruin everything I created.' Cuss hated southpaws. 'I'm sorry, Cuss. Ain't that a bitch?' There I was apologising for a spectacular knockout." Tyson's next outing was against 3-0 Lorenzo Canete on the 15th of August 1985, once again in Atlantic City. Tyson was aggressive from the very start and knocked down Lorenzo within the opening few seconds of the fight. After a mandatory 8 count, Tyson got straight back to work. After cornering Lorenzo and delivering a wicked combination, the referee stopped the fight, awarding Tyson yet another TKO victory. Mike Tyson's next opponent was 12-5 Michael Johnson on the 5th of September in Atlantic City. Tyson's manager, Jim Jacobs, expressed his concern about finding boxers willing to fight Tyson, whilst keeping up Tyson's blistering momentum, but Michael Johnson agreed to square off with Tyson after a 2-year layoff. Tyson started off like a bat out of hell, landing heavy shots immediately. Tyson then knocks Johnson down with a liver shot in the opening few seconds of the first round. After taking the ref's 8 count, Johnson was floored by a powerful right punch, knocking him out and finishing the fight in 39 seconds. Tyson stepped into the ring a month later at the Trump Casino in Atlantic City against arguably his best opponent at this point, Donnie Long. Long entered this bout 15-3 with 10 of his wins via knockout. After the opening bell, Tyson spared no time getting straight to work, although it did look like Tyson initially struggled to close the distance. However, he found an opening and knocked Long down for the first time in the fight. After Long got to his feet, he looked visibly unsteady. Tyson then swarmed Long with a barrage of punches, forcing Long to take a knee to the canvas. Once Long got up again, Tyson pushed for the finish and knocked down his opponent a third time, forcing the referee to wave off the fight, awarding Tyson his 9th straight knockout victory, his 6th in the first round. Tyson's next fight was at the Atlantis Hotel and Casino in Atlantic City on the 25th of October against Robert Calais. Strangely enough, Calais was the hometown fighter. However, Tyson got a louder cheer from the crowd when an announcer introduced him, proving Mike's popularity. The fight didn't start off as fast as his previous fights, but after managing to close the distance, it forced Calais to clinch. After the second clinch, Tyson clocked Calais with 2 left hooks, which ended the fight in 37 seconds after the ref waved off the fight, as Calais was visibly unsteady when getting to his feet. About a week later, Tyson was in action again, this time against 5'6" Sterling Benjamin. This would be Tyson's first fight at the Latham Coliseum, New York State. Tyson applied pressure early in the fight by working his jab and head movement. Once Tyson closed the distance, he caught Benjamin with a short left hand, sending him to the canvas. Tyson then started to lay in some heavy body shots, even though Benjamin was trying to protect himself. It looked like a left hook to the liver is what earned Tyson his 13th straight KO victory. This would be Tyson's last fight before D'Amato sadly passed away on the 4th November 1985. D'Amato wasn't just a trainer or manager, he was the father Tyson never had. Kevin Rooney then took over as Tyson's trainer. This was a logical decision, as Rooney was also trained by D'Amato and was one of Tyson's cornermen as well. Those close to Tyson say he never fully recovered from D'Amato's passing, attributing the boxer's future behaviour to the loss of the man who had previously grounded and supported him. Less than 2 weeks after D'Amato's passing, Tyson was fighting again, this time against Eddie Richardson, who entered the fight with a record of 12-2. Eddie Richardson was noticeably much taller than Tyson, standing at 6'6", but this did not intimidate Tyson, as he wasted no time knocking Eddie Richardson down with a clean right hand. Tyson then did a great job of breaking the distance between him and Richardson and throwing some heavy shots, forcing Eddie to clinch in defense, but Tyson was able to lay out Richardson with an excellent left hook. After the fight, Tyson helped up his fallen opponent, which was a bit out of character for Tyson, as he was usually a lot more aggressive and unforgiving. Tyson continued his winning streak 9 days later, once again at the Latham Coliseum against Conroy Nelson, who had a record of 15-7-2 at the time. Mike started off working his jab and did a good job of keeping Nelson on the back foot and chasing him down, but it didn't look like there were any bad intentions behind his punches. Once a few of his body punches penetrated Nelson's guard, this wobbled him, and at this point it was like Tyson flipped a switch and started putting malice into his shots. Nelson was able to survive the first round. The second round started off strong, and Tyson was landing heavy shots from the get-go. Tyson then finished the fight by cracking Nelson with a left hook that knocked him out and actually broke Nelson's nose. Tyson's 14th fight was about 2 weeks later at the Felt Forum, New York, against 13-6 Simon Scaff, who was 35 pounds heavier than Tyson and around 6 inches taller. But as Tyson had demonstrated in his early encounters against larger opponents, he could close the gap, avoid his opponent's offense, and penetrate his opponent's guard with vicious hooks and uppercuts. Tyson managed to bust open Scaff within the first minute, and then knocked him out with a horrific sounding left hook, ending the fight at 1 minute 19 seconds of the first round. Mike Tyson's final fight of 1985 was once again at the Latham Coliseum, this time against Mark Young, who had a record of 12-4-1. This would be the first fight that Mike Tyson would wear his signature black shorts. The fight starts off in typical Tyson fashion, as he spares no time getting busy with powerful punches. A short right hook is what it took to knock Mark Young out cold for Tyson's 15th straight knockout victory in 1985. At this point in his career, Tyson was rapidly becoming more popular and building his notoriety in the boxing scene as a knockout artist. His win streak attracted media attention, and Tyson was billed as the next great heavyweight champion. There are a few reasons why Tyson was able to fight so frequently in 1985. First of all, he had youth on his side. He made his professional debut at 18 years old. Second, Tyson had a very strong work ethic and was certainly being pushed by his manager and coach to build his record and get as much in-ring experience as possible, as he showed a great amount of talent and potential. And third, Tyson finished a lot of his fights in the first round, and in 1985, none of his fights went past the fourth round. In the post-fight interview after his Donnie Long bout, Tyson in his own words said, "I'm almost a master at evading the punches coming at me. If anybody saw any of my fights, I don't get hit. I'm yet to have a bloody nose. I never have marks on my face." Mike Tyson had a very impressive rookie year, but it wasn't without two main struggles: the struggle to find willing opponents for Tyson and the passing of his manager, Cus D'Amato. However, despite these roadblocks, Tyson stormed through the division, and he fought 15 times in 1985, and he fought less than 2 weeks after D'Amato's death. Tyson showed a huge amount of potential. However, some people doubted Tyson as he fought pushovers and journeymen in his first year. However, Tyson's manager, Jim Jacobs, knew Tyson could be one of the all-time greats, and that Tyson had the mentality and the determination to be one of the all-time greats, so he tried to build his record and ring experience as fast as possible. The next video will focus on Mike Tyson in 1986, up until his first heavyweight title win. A lot of work went into this video so far, over 40 hours, split between research, verifying information, collecting photos, videos and articles, reading Tyson's book, script writing, doing the voiceover and editing the video. If you enjoyed this video and would like to see the rest of this series and all the series on the channel, please like the video, subscribe to my channel Combat Sports History, and please share on social media. Take care and thank you for watching.